Troy, home of Napa Know-How. Stop by and see owners Mike and Melissa Kilcrease and their Napa Know-How team with over 100 years of combined experience. We're the only locally owned parts store in Pike County, and we're fully stocked and ready to serve you. We pride ourselves on being your go-to parts store, not only for the simple items, but we specialize in those hard-to-find items as well. Trojan Auto Parts, the right part at the right price at the right time. Napa, a name you've trusted here in Troy since 1945.
Know-how, Napa Know-how.
Are you a driver trainee looking for a job? Then come to Wiley Sanders Truck Line, where we reimburse you for your driver training pay. Thank you so much for bringing Reed State to Wiley Sanders Truck Line.
Absolutely. And now that we brought them to you, what do you have to offer them?
I have a lot to offer them. I can offer them 401k. I can give them 4% of their gross pay. I can give them Blue Cross Blue Shield. I can get them home twice a week and every weekend. That's right, twice a week, every weekend. Wiley Sanders Truck Lines, Troy, Alabama. Thank you, sir.
At Marguerite's, we've been designing and crafting custom jewelry for 4 generations. It's an art for master jewelers. There's really no room for error. It doesn't matter how big the diamond is. You don't expect anything less than perfection. What matters is quality, beauty, and value. After all these decades, your engagement ring is still our greatest pride. Marguerite's exquisite jewelry.
At the Piggly Wiggly, we proudly support our local farmers and bring you the best they have to offer, all at cost plus 10%. When you shop local, you reinvest in your community. Remember, buy local, shop local. Piggly Wiggly, local since forever.
Panama City to Atlanta was 34 minutes in the air.
Oh, boy, wasn't that something?
All right, we're on the air. Do your intro, Mike, that you've done a million times.
Good morning and welcome to Today in Lower Alabama, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Mike Amos. He's Bill Rice Jr. And we're ready to go into a Tuesday, getting ready for the biggest game in a long time. They call it the game of the century.
Part 2. So actually, we had 2 games of the century this century.
Who was it?
Well, the last game of the century was in 2011 between the same two teams.
I remember that.
It's like the flood of the century, you know, when you have 5 of them.
Yeah. Of course,
the worst thing that Les Miles ever did in his life is he bragged about how Alabama was so great after that game and said they should be number 2 and that there should be a rematch. No coach in his right mind should have wanted a rematch. Only Les Miles would have said that, and he got his rematch in New Orleans, and Alabama shut him out 21-0. I was at that game. Yeah. And Alabama's won 8 in a row ever since.
Hey, Mike, have you looked at ESPN? They have a list of the 150 greatest games of all time, college football games, and I counted it up. Alabama is in 21 of the 150 greatest games of all time. What game do you think they rank highest of all Alabama games as being the greatest of all time?
Is it wins or losses?
No, just the most exciting, compelling, memorable games in college football history.
Alabama.
Like, you know, the kick six.
Nebraska.
I would have to say kick 6 is probably number 1.
No, it's not. It's not.
What is it? What is the 92 championship team?
It's the Alabama Notre Dame Sugar Bowl of 1973 that Alabama won Notre Dame won 24-23. That's the number 10 game.
I remember that game well. That was a game where
it was a great game.
They threw it back to the quarterback. Alabama huge play in the game where Alabama ran the halfback pass back to Richard Todd.
Mm-hmm.
The young man they threw that.
How does kick 6 not factor in?
Well, they also.
Win of all time.
I think they also factor in national championship implications. So that game was for the national championship. Although kick 6 was kept out.
Kick 6 was too. Auburn went on to play for the national championship and got beat by Florida State barely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Alabama could have gone on and played for a national championship. I agree. The game that's not on there that surprised me more than anything is comeback. Auburn comes back from a 24-point deficit, beats Alabama in Tuscaloosa.
That was something.
And goes on and wins the national championship, and that did not make the 150.
I was at that game.
Yeah, Dad and I were at that game. I I had the flu for about a week afterwards. I was so sick.
I was there too.
Yeah. Of course, got to be.
I would have to think Alabama's goal line stand would be up there pretty high against Penn State.
I would
That's
think
right.
it's one of the top.
It's up there.
Yeah, the goal line stands where Alabama stopped Penn State.
Maybe one of these Southern Cal, Notre Dame, another.
They said a number one game.
Yeah, they ranked them 1 through 150. Maybe Texas and USC or. Look it up while you're on talking to us. It was on.
They always talk about that Texas SC game with Vince Young at quarterback.
Yeah, that's way up there.
Well, that was for the national championship, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Bama punts in there.
Oh boy, I was
the Van
at that
Tiffen
game.
kick is in
I
there.
was at that game.
Auburn's in there. The Prayer and Jordan Hare is in there.
Yeah, that was big.
I thought it was very well done. They had about a panel of 100
I would imagine
experts that picked them.
Flutie beat Miami's got to be up there really high.
Yeah,
But
was.
not as high as you think because that had no national title implications, but it's in there. The mountaintop game where Alabama went to Auburn for the first time ever is in there.
Hollingsworth was the quarterback at
I
Alabama.
didn't really get to watch a lot of Auburn this weekend, but I did get to. I went upstairs when I saw the score, and next thing I know, Ole Miss has the ball and has a chance to win the game because Auburn missed that field goal. That was a surprising score that Ole Miss played them that tough. I mean, did Nix just not have a good game and lucky threw for over 300 yards?
Nix looked great.
I think Nix played better than most everybody else.
Why could they not put any more points on the board?
They just stalled in the red zone. They missed 3 field goals and tried field goals instead of scoring touchdowns, but they had 506 yards of offense to Ole Miss's 230. They had 26 first downs. Ole Miss had about 50, so they dominated in stats. But like you say, Ole Miss had a chance at the end. Ole Miss.
I watched the Georgia-Florida game. The officials were awful in that game. There were so many missed calls that Florida didn't get any calls. It looked like one time the Georgia wide receiver, the ball clearly hit the ground on third down. They gave him the first down, and then a couple other plays that went Georgia's way. I mean, I think Georgia won 24-17 when it was all said and done, but I felt like Florida was going to beat Georgia. But man, Fromm had a good game. If he threw close to 300 yards, but that pretty much won the East.
That was David Smith's crew that used to be the quarterback at Alabama.
Yeah.
And every game they have, you just better get ready for a penalty every other down.
Yeah, no question about it.
I don't see Georgia getting beat by any. I mean, even if they got beat by Auburn, Florida now has 2 SEC losses, so I think that'd be the only loss Georgia could have going down.
That's right.
They'll beat Missouri.
Check out this scenario. Alabama beats LSU Saturday. Alabama wins out, beats Auburn. Alabama goes to the SEC championship. Georgia wins out. Georgia beats Alabama in the SEC championship. You've got 3 SEC teams with 1 loss. Who do you take?
I was thinking about that the other day. I think if Alabama wins the SEC championship game, they're still in the playoffs. If they're undefeated. Even if they lost the SEC championship, I still think they'd made the playoffs now.
Alabama is a 6-point favorite going into to Tuesday. I don't know if it'll climb right now. Over-under is 65. They consider it to be a high-scoring game. What do you think?
I do, too.
I feel like Alabama's defense, from what I've seen this year, they're going to give up some points. It's just a matter of, how many. I think LSU's going to be probably in the high 20s to low 30s in points. I think Alabama will have to outscore them to win.
Of course, it is Saban in his press conference yesterday said that Tua is a game-time decision. Oh, man, that's the biggest joke in the world.
Well, you know what? I'm going to have friends at the game, I'm sure. And I'm going to ask them to call or text me in warm-ups and tell me how Tua looks. And that'll affect my bet.
You know what I'm thinking he might do, and yeah, he's not this type guy that would make a show out of this thing, but I could see Jones coming out and playing the first down and then bring Tua out. You know, I let him start the game, Jones start the game, and then bring Tua in.
Well, you know game day is going to be there, so, I mean, they're going to find out everything before he starts. And now, the worst thing ever, I'm glad I don't have to experience this as a fan. Trump's going to the game. So
I know, that is bad.
And lines will take forever to get into
the security, and then he's going to take away some of the luster of the game. You know, that's what
I think that too.
I can't understand why he's doing that.
Well, my question is, how did he get a ticket? It's a hard sellout.
I mean, Alabama, I read an article yesterday, Alabama, 65% of Alabamians voted for Trump. So, I mean, you know, Tuberville, you know, is running for Senate. He said that he'll be at the game and give Trump a hero's welcome.
Oh, really? Is that right?
So, we need to mention what happened in Conway, South Carolina.
Conway, South Carolina. Did you...
Troy, this is a Troy team that a couple of years ago was beating LSU and, you know, beat Nebraska at Nebraska last year and has several of those players still playing on this team. It's just kind of hard to believe what has happened. I mean, it's one of the more shocking seasons I've ever seen from a team that won 10, 11, and 10. You know, 31 games the last 3 years, and now we're sitting at 3 and 5, and all we got to do now is just beat Georgia Southern, who's won 4 in a row, and just beat Appalachian State.
Did Troy win 11 games?
Yeah, they won 11 games. They won 10 games, 11 games, and 10 games.
All right, okay.
Well, it's just same old.
Why did it surprise you that when Troy didn't make it? Did it surprise you that they would just go down the field without no problem?
No, I mean you're talking about one of the worst defenses. I mean,
did it surprise you that Troy got beat?
I mean, I picked Coastal Carolina to win the game. What surprised me more than anything is that Chip Lindsey finally had it where he wanted it. He had the game on the line with his offense, his play calling, and we went conservative. You know, we tried to just run the clock out. You see teams do it all the time.
Well,
you know, I'm going to run the ball 3 times. I'm going to make them use all 3 timeouts. Now, most teams can do that if they have a defense that they think can win the game. But when has our defense showed that we can win a game?
Well, let me just say that
DK Billings, who takes a handoff, somehow trips. I think maybe gets 1 yard on. I think we needed 3rd and 3.
Did he get a yard? Did he? I thought he just fell flat in the face.
But I mean, all I can say is, if you get a first down there, the game's over. So
we were asking this guy who was a backup, who was a 3rd string running back coming into the game, coming into the season.
No, DK Billings was number 2 coming in.
All right, well, number 2 coming into the season, he was scared to death. Again, when he slipped, he was just scared to death. That was the biggest play of his life. If he gets the first down, Troy wins the game.
Well, I mean, we throw for, 385 yards? I mean, we couldn't draw up a pass play for 3 yards with some of those great receivers Troy has. And
that's what I have thought. And of course, it's easy to look back and say what you do and all that. But, why didn't we just stay with our offense and throw and get out? He could have thrown and got his first down.
Well, I mean, the sad thing is they got the ball back with 2 minutes and no timeouts left at about the 20-something yard line, and Troy tackled them inbounds twice on that whole drive. Twice on the whole drive. So they score within 30 seconds, and then they go for 2, and maybe a controversial pass interference penalty on Troy in the end zone. I mean, Troy gets tremendous pressure, flushes the quarterback out. He's running for his life. He throws it up in the end zone, and they call pass interference on Dale Pettis. And then on the next play, they had the ball at the 1.5-yard line. He ran the option, and nobody even touched him. Nobody came within 5 yards of making the tackle when they went for 2.
Oh, man.
Well, it's another game decided by the referees.
How did they get down to the 1? It was a big play that way, wasn't it? What did they do?
Yeah, they just moved it down the field. There was no controversy. And the only time I thought that maybe they should have called grounding on Coastal because Troy was basically sacking him to the ground. He threw the ball away, but I guess they said he was out of the pocket.
Well, let me just say this, too. The pass interference penalty. An official should not be the difference in the game, and that's what it was.
They are.
An official who, and like you said, he ran out of the pocket, And and he still threw it. An official call. Well, the official's call was the difference in the game. Is that right?
About every game I watched is close.
Would the extra point have been good?
The 2-point call.
It would have been. I mean, it was a huge risk going for 2. I mean, I felt like Coastal was out of their mind going for 2 because I felt like they were going to win in overtime.
I know
it
surprised me. And did you see anything where he said something about he was going to go for 2 if he scored? Did you see any of that?
No, I didn't read an article about it or anything like that. But I mean, it was one of those situations where they had already gone for 2 earlier in the fourth quarter and scored as well. So I mean, I didn't see the point. I felt like they were the better team in the second half against Troy. I felt like they would have won in overtime, but he went ahead and just tried to go ahead and win it.
I don't know. I tell you, Barker is a pretty darn good quarterback. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, he's a good quarterback, but he takes a lot of sacks that he shouldn't take.
Did he take some sacks again? Did he take?
His legs are not near as good as they were. That knee injury. You have 3 knee injuries in your career.
Yeah.
He just doesn't have the speed he used to have.
But now something I did not see because my television went out on me. How Troy scored the go-ahead touchdown. How did they do that?
I mean, they just drove the field and he hit Geiger on like a 20-yard pass.
I mean, Troy, when he had the ball, now let's just say this, and this makes a lot of sense with what the coach did. Troy was scoring at will. Is that right? I mean,
that was only in the first quarter, though. They scored 21 points in the first quarter, scored no points in the second quarter.
Yeah, but, and you think about it, time of possession was huge in that game. I mean,
right about that. They had it 36 minutes. Troy only had it 23.
That's right. 36 minutes to 23, you're going to win the football game most of the time. And that was the biggest difference in the game was time of possession. Troy just didn't have the football in the second half, Mike. And I think that was by their plan.
You got to find a way to get a first down in the game where you don't put that pressure on your defense.
Yeah, but I can remember seeing teams over the years that, a team that they were playing that had the great offense, they just kept the ball away from them. And they very rarely they were ever trying to throw the ball downfield more than 10 yards. Isn't that right?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's one of those type of things,
that tight end for them was really good. Wasn't it, the big, tall tight end?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those type of things that, Coastal made the jump from 1AA a few years ago, and, they're not anywhere close to the level of a Georgia Southern or Appalachian State, so kind of shocking to lose to a program like that.
Yeah. Troy still has a chance, though. Did you know that?
Troy had 500 yards total offense, 385 passing, 115 rushing.
Oh, boy.
Troy has one of the best offenses in America, statistically. But they got one of the worst defenses in America.
Exactly right. And and then the sad thing about it, that young running back with that's what I was thinking about on that 2 yards. 2 yards and the game's over.
Yeah.
2 yards and we get it, and he doesn't even get off out of his blocks. He trips. I mean, and that's a sign of just being scared. Nervous.
I mean, not scared. Your feet just went off.
And that has a lot to do with being scared too. I guarantee you.
When it's all said and done, he's had a great season to take over.
Yeah.
Smith.
I would have.
He rushed for 85 yards in that game. He's got almost 700 yards rushing.
Yeah. Well, I know he's not. He's not a bad player. I'm not saying that, but in that situation, that would put him on the. Making him have to make a big play for Troy.
Your 5 senior offensive linemen are not 5 seniors, but 5 returning starters.
Yeah.
And, these guys, that's putting a lot of pressure to get 3 yards when they know they're going to try to run the ball.
I was listening to the radio, and of course, they do a good job. And, you could tell when we didn't make it, you could tell it was just a matter of time. But who in the world would have thought they'd go for 2? No question. But that's what happened. And you know what I hate this morning? I'm wearing their colors this morning. I can't believe this, that I'm wearing their colors this morning.
Mm-hmm.
I apologize.
I mean, that's how bad, I guess people have no respect for Troy's defense. I guess they feel like that was against a defense like that, that's what you need to do is just go ahead and win it, be done with it.
Yeah. Well, and at the same time, a respect for Troy's offense, too. It had to be. But, that's the same guy that brought Charleston Southern into Troy. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that's right.
we just beat his brains out. I think we scored 55 or 60 on him or something.
Well, I mean, Marcus Jones, I think, of course, he doesn't play for Troy anymore. He plays at Houston, but not 3 straight, but 2 straight years had a kickoff return against him. I think he had 3 kickoff returns.
That's right. He had 2 last year, and I saw those, or year before last. I saw those. Or was that last year? No, the year before last.
I mean, how shocking are you of this record, though, at 3-5? I mean, I know it's a new coach, first time as a head coach ever in college. You know, there's going to be some games that you probably should win and some games you probably should lose. I mean, I guess it's just learning on the job.
Again, you know, you lose the ball game, but you had every opportunity to win the ball game. Like we said with the 4th and 2 and
well, let's look at Troy's losses. How many of them could they have won? They could have won Southern Miss. They could have won Arkansas State. They could have won this one.
Yeah.
Couldn't have won Missouri. Who was up?
How bad does Missouri look now? Like, I mean, Missouri just manhandled us like it was nothing.
Yeah, they really did. It sure did. That linebacker from Missouri had a lot to do with it. I reckon, you know, losing him, that hurt them a lot. We've got a lot to talk about. Of course, we've got a big list of high school and college games. Of course, the playoffs start this week, and we're excited about watching that. Charles Henderson went to Bay Minette and lost to 6A
Baldwin County.
It doesn't look very good for Charles Henderson. They're 4-5, and they play undefeated Faith Academy in the playoffs.
Undefeated Faith Academy 10-0, and other teams.
I mean, do you want to go to the playoffs when you got to go play a team that's 10-0? I don't even know how that even works.
That's what they were talking about on the ESPN the other night. The team in the ACC that's in the other division than Clemson. Do you really want to go to the ACC Conference Championship game?
Exactly right.
Of course, I live down here in Grayton, and everybody's talking about Florida State. Of course, they fired Taggart, and they're starting to have all those names come out. Of course, you know, they keep on mentioning a name from the past down here that everybody says is the leading candidate is Bob Stoops, the former great Oklahoma coach. So if Florida State could pay off the $20 million to get Taggart to go away, they must have Stoops in mind.
How much are they going to have to pay Taggart?
They've already paid him $20 million.
Oh, gosh. Oh, Taggart, if I'm Taggart, I said, so long. So long, you folks. Thank you so much.
He's moving up there near you, Michael.
Thank you so much. I'm going to buy a house in Florida. I'm going to buy a house in Colorado. I'm going to buy a house in Hawaii.
He's buying a house in Great Beach.
I'm going to buy a house in North Carolina. I'm going to buy a house in the mountains of Bulgaria.
He could buy the whole town and run
I
it.
got 2 houses right down the street for about $3 million. He can come
Hey,
he can do it. He can write a check.
Let me just say this: we were talking about cliches and short lines,
Slogans, famous lines.
You know what this is, don't you? He's gonna smile all the way to the bank.
Looks like Gene Chizik. You look how happy he looks on the SEC network. He's still being paid for Auburn, I guess.
That's the biggest payoff in college football history, don't you think, Mike?
Yeah.
And you know, you talking about something that'll push your team back a little bit is having to dish out $20 million of your revenue.
Then won't they have to buy out the contract of the? Well, if they get an existing coach, aren't they going to have to pay off that school?
Yeah, they would have to pay them off too.
So that makes, and then they're going to have to pay him the salary.
That's amazing. Well, let me just say this.
I'm looking at Caleb Barker's numbers so far through 8 games. He's 203 of 303. That's a 67% passing percentage.
How much?
203 for 303 completions attempted.
What percentage though?
67%.
Oh, that is phenomenal. Whoa.
He's thrown for right under 2,500 yards. That's 309 yards a game. He's thrown for 21 touchdowns and only 6 interceptions. So he has had a pretty phenomenal year.
He really has. Bless his heart. He deserves more, doesn't he? Better.
DK Billingsley, who came in for B.J. Smith, has run for 616 yards and averages 77 a game. So he's had a really good season.
Boy, if he could only got those 2. Man, oh man.
Well, you can't blame him. I can't believe you're blaming him.
Well, Well, he doesn't get it. He doesn't even come out of the blocks, Mike. Who else is there to blame?
You gotta blame the coach, though. You gotta be throwing the ball.
Well, I mean, you at least
they stacked the box. They probably wouldn't have made 3 yards anyway.
I wonder if they had a timeout there. Surely they did, didn't they?
He was trying to get them to burn their last time out.
And who was trying to get them to burn the last time out?
Troy was trying to get Coastal to burn their last time out.
Yeah.
Coastal got the ball back with no timeouts.
Yeah, that's right.
Georgia had that situation against Florida, and
I saw an amazing throw. That was crazy to get that first down.
Fromm completed it. That's why I love talking out loud with Marcus Spears and Greg McElroy on the SEC Network. Every week they talk about the crazy, stupid plays that happen. I turned off the game knowing that Georgia was going to win, but Georgia has about 37 seconds left in the game. Florida has no timeouts. It's third down. Georgia runs some little handoff to Swift, who runs around to the side and falls down, and then eventually they tackle him. But Marcus Spears pointed out, why in the world are you running the ball there when the only thing that could happen is that guy fumbles?
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, just take a knee. Coaches taking risks they do not have to take it just puzzles me how often it happens.
Well, let me just say this. Look at these 3 games. Arkansas State. Look at Southern Miss, and look at that game, this past game, Coastal. I mean, those were games that Troy could have easily won.
They were either one that they could have all gone either way.
Who was the one that Troy had the ball inside the 20-yard line at the end of the game and couldn't score?
They had the ball inside the 10-yard line. Arkansas State.
Against Arkansas State, we had the ball inside the 10-yard line.
They ran 10 seconds off the clock.
Mike, this Troy team is capable. If they played better defense, if they played better defense, it'd be a pretty good football team.
I think I made the statement before the season. That's when we were going through the schedule. I said Troy can beat almost every team on its schedule, but they can also lose to almost every team.
If you knew your defense was going to be this bad, though, and you had those 6 guys that left the program that were all starters, I mean, why did you not try to go bring in transfers? I felt like they just felt like they could win with who they had.
And now let me tell you.
I know they got a lot of injuries. Zoe Bridges has been out. Those Nixon brothers, the twins, I think they've been out. A couple other guys are hurt or out. So, I mean, they've lost a lot of guys on defense as well. But, boy, they needed a lot of guys to transfer in to help out immediately.
And if Troy can win 3 out of the last 4, they can go to a bowl game. Did you know that?
Yeah, but what signs do you see that are leading to that?
Well, I think they match up. I think they match up with every one of them. I think they match up well with the.
Southern is just destroying people right now.
Well, let me tell you.
They were blowing out App State until App State came back in the 4th quarter.
Now let me tell you something, Mike. They threw the ball 1 time. I'm thinking.
I watched the game.
One time they threw the ball 1 time. If you're one-dimensional, one-dimensional, you can beat Troy. Can beat them. Troy can put. They're gonna put 8 men in the box. We know. And Troy can beat. Troy, I think, lines up well with Georgia Southern.
That would be great.
I think they line up well enough to beat Texas State. And I think. I think they stand a better chance of beating App State than they do Louisiana Lafayette, because they got to go all the way to Louisiana Lafayette.
Yeah, the best scenario you hope is that somehow Troy gets to 5 and wins before they play Appalachian State. If they're 5 and 6, the Appalachian State game would come down to
in Troy
eligibility. Yeah, if they beat Appalachian State, that would.
Boy, wouldn't it be something if they could win out?
What we're saying, Mike, the season is definitely not over with.
Right. Never
like I've said all along, 6 wins, and you go to a bowl game, you get the same reward everybody else does.
Well, I'm going to make a point.
I got to think some of these guys are going to quit, though. Yeah. Some of these guys just aren't going to play very hard the rest of the year.
That's where coaching comes in.
I mean, how do you not lose these players? I think you're already starting to see that he's lost this team a little bit. I think.
Who is the kid that had 9 receptions for Troy? Who was that?
I'm sure it was Geiger. 11 receptions.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't think this Troy team's been lost a little bit to this coaching staff?
I don't know. Let's hope
No,
not.
I don't think so. I don't think any of that. I hear them every day practice. They sound like, and I've watched them a little bit this week. Let's just say this.
I just want to see Georgia Tech win the championship now. I mean, not Georgia Tech, but Georgia State.
Yeah.
That'd be an amazing story. A team that won, I think, 2 games last year. If they were to win the Sun Belt and beat Tennessee and Army.
Mike, do you know right now the most impressive team in the Sun Belt?
Georgia Southern.
Right now, no, probably
Georgia
State is one of them, and the other one is Lafayette.
Well, Lafayette went to the conference championship game last year. Everybody knew they were going to be good.
I know, but what I'm saying, those two are the most impressive guys, and then maybe bring in App State, but then of course people like Georgia Southern.
I mean, App State and Troy had the most votes to win the conference at the start of the season. Was Appalachian State and Troy?
Yeah.
Boy, Oregon sure did kill USC. That's another score I was surprised about, 56-24.
Oh yeah, there were several big scores.
I want to say that
UCLA is turning it around and Tennessee is turning around. That's 2 teams to watch down the stretch.
Yeah, let's go over some scores.
I want to make one final point on this Troy team, though. It's bold, fine, but what matters is how you finish the season. You can have a good feeling about your team if you improve and upset some teams at the end of the. I can think of a lot of teams that you were written them off.
This is a tremendous.
Think of the Ray Perkins second year at Alabama, 5-6. That team just had all kind of terrible luck. I think Kerry Good hurt his knee, all kind of injuries. Quarterbacks get hurt.
And beat Auburn.
They beat Auburn, but I think before they beat Auburn, they either beat LSU or they played them straight up. You could tell at the end of the year that the team had not quit and they were getting better. That's what I want to happen. Don't you want to see that happen to Troy? That would build in the future.
Neil Brown turned this program around. I mean, we just talked about the records to start the show. We won 10, we won 11, we won 10. When Neil Brown took over for Larry Blakeney, I mean, we loved Larry more than anything, but I mean, we were awful. Our program had just crumbled. I mean, his last recruiting class, he signed 20 junior college guys and 3 high school guys.
Oh my God!
Our program is as low as it had been, and this isn't what Chip Lindsey came into. Chip Lindsey came into a program that was established and one of the top non-Power 5 programs in the country. So this is why it's so shocking.
Well, we've documented the attrition on defense. You did it before the year better than anybody in America.
We lost 6 of the top.
And when I heard that, I thought, this could be a pretty bad, challenging year. So he's got the cards he was dealt were not as good as we think. The players he had to line up with in that first game on defense were not Division I quality players.
The kid, Mike, the great cornerback, a good blade wide receiver.
Marcus Jones, Terrence Dunlap are 2 of the best corners Troy's had in years.
Okay, and both of them are. Jones just quit.
Dunlap's still on the team. He just didn't make his grades.
And then you got the kid that led Troy in tackles for 2 straight years, had another year of eligibility, went to Colorado State.
Transfer.
Back Colorado State.
That's 2 transfers and 1 academic.
And then you had Antonio Barker, who I think had 8 tackles against Nebraska last year and was one of the top defensive tackles Troy's had for a long time. 6'4", 280. He didn't make his grades. He was right before the season.
2 academics, 2 transfers. That's 4.
And these are all conference
these are big-time
players. I mean, these are big-time players.
Tyler Murray, the strong safety, who was I think second team all Sun Belt last year, had about 5 interceptions, about 70.
Another all conference.
What happened
player.
to him?
He just all of a sudden transferred right before the season started.
So he transferred.
3 transfers, 2 academics. Then we had somebody got hurt, right?
Then you had Tyler Knutson. He started at strong safety for Rutgers, a big 6'4", 220-pound safety that it was a walk-on starting last year, but Neil Brown gave a scholarship to. Real smart player in the secondary.
Good.
And what happened to him?
Injury.
Head injuries, too many concussions.
So you got 3 transfers, 2 academics, 1 injury. That's 6 players. That doesn't count the players you lost to graduation and ran out of eligibility. Like, how many seniors did Troy lose last year in eligibility?
They lost some really good ones. They lost Rutgers. They lost Sanders, the unbelievable nose guard.
Yeah, oh yeah, great player.
They lost a great linebacker that was all over the field, Reese.
Yeah.
So that's 9 players off of that defense last year gone. 9.
There is your rest of your story. I mean, these are all conference, ladies and gentlemen. We're not exaggerating here.
So I'm giving
These
Coach
are
Lindsey a little
all
pass.
conference players, and then those 2 that had academic problems. That was unreal. So you ended up having 3 transfers and 2 academics right there, but they
And
were
2
all
injuries.
conference type players.
2 lost to injuries.
So that'll tell you.
And then 3 lost to graduation last year. That's at least 9. We're probably leaving off some.
And the guy that was so good up front.
And your
Mike,
defensive coordinator.
The guy that was so good up front, what happened to him? Did he transfer? The kid that was so good against Nebraska.
I mean, Cholo's still there.
Barker, what was his name?
Oh yeah, well Barker, yeah, he didn't make his grade, so I guess he was a senior, so I don't know if he transferred down to 1AA or what. I'll have to find out.
Yeah. But again, that had a lot to do with their defense. Don't you agree? You know that he had no control over. He had no control over.
If you have half of those players, you win against Southern Miss.
Because he was a new coach, he could have tried to save some of those guys.
Yeah, that's right. And then, of course, another guy you can throw in there, one of your top linebackers from Opelika has not played hardly a down.
He's played 2 games. Zoe Bridges.
Zoe Bridges, he was one of the top. He was an all-conference type player.
Was he only played 2
there's
games?
another one out, huh?
He's a defensive end.
What happened to him?
Just injuries.
He got hurt. Yeah, they've got 4 or 5 guys that are hurt too.
So that's 10.
So I mean, that makes a lot of sense.
I think that needs to be highlighted. You know, and the offense can play with anybody, but the defense can't play with anybody.
Mike, if they would have been able to keep Murray and then Jones and then the
defensive lineman,
the other academic guy, Mike, that we lost secondary. I'm looking at the secondary.
Yeah, I mean, I can go over the rosters from last year if you ever want to go.
No, but what I'm saying, there's 3 guys in the secondary that were all conference type players that just left or were. Murray was injured.
2 of them left, and one of them had grade issues.
Yeah, who's the grade issue guy?
We already talked about Dunlap.
The kid from Maple.
And then the walk-on that got a scholarship, that he was going to play a lot. He's injury.
He would have started, yeah.
All right.
So that's 4 in the secondary.
All right, and if you look at the offense, they weren't hurt hardly at all. Isn't that right? Think about offense.
They lost the preseason Sun Belt Player of the Year, B.J. Smith.
Oh, yeah, that's right, by injury. Yeah, they lost Smith by injury, yeah. But other than that,
I'm going to write this year off as an anomaly, and that's why I say it's so important to finish strong. You've got all this. Once he gets his own kids in there, you're not going to see these transfers and grade issues. And
I'll tell you right now, you take those you add those 6 or 7 all-conference type players that have left or were injured, or they had bad grades, whatever. That's 7 preseason all-conference type players that did not play a down.
I've been keep counting up, but everybody y'all mentioned, including the guy that's only played 2 games, that's 10 players that are not play. I mean, I remember Alabama had a rash of injuries 2 years ago on defense, but it wasn't 10 players as bad.
And that was on the defensive side of the ball.
They really hurt the offense. So Trey Efort's been hurt a lot this season. He's our best deep threat, number 13.
Yeah, he didn't play hardly at all, did he?
But he didn't play at all this because he's got a torn hamstring.
We have no problem offensively. We can play with any of these guys offensively, don't you think?
So Troy lost quarterback Blaze Brown last year. He was a starter in the secondary. And then we mentioned earlier they lost Sanders and Reese.
Sanders was a tremendous, overpowering nose guard. Made 2 people have to block him.
I mean, so those were 2 big losses, and Ruckert was also a great player.
Yeah, Ruckert, yeah. Yeah, he's the guy that made the tackle against LSU. Ruckert.
Yeah, the fumble, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, Michael, you called it early on. You were the one that just started adding up all of this attrition, is what you call it.
defensive players.
I mean, it wasn't normal. You have normal attrition with program. This went way beyond normal attrition.
I wish a writer or something would take that and
build
put
a
it
story.
out, because it is obvious what has happened to the defense. It's obvious. All these great players have left.
For some reason, they are not on the field for 3 different reasons: academics, grades.
Tremont Knapp is a kid on Lynette, started the season at defensive tackle, and I guess he got hurt too. I hadn't heard that name.
Mathis. Yeah, oh yeah. It's amazing, ladies and gentlemen. We've talked about this on and off, but we're gonna put it down on paper now. That about 8 players we know were preseason all-conference type players, either left on their own accord or had academic problems or were injured.
And that doesn't count the people you lost to regular graduation, their eligibility.
Right. And then
so that you had that make that 11.
You take away Jones and Mathis and some of those guys, and you wonder what happened. But it's on. You can see right on paper what happened. You went from being the best defensive team in the conference to perhaps the worst.
That's right, exactly. Very well put.
Breaking news in Tuscaloosa: Tua Tagovailoa was seen walking on campus drinking a Coke.
Tua was seen drinking a Coca-Cola, ladies and gentlemen.
Not a Pepsi, yay.
Tua, the Crimson Tide of Alabama. Yay, Alabama, the Crimson Tide of Alabama. Getting ready to go head-to-head with those Bayou Bengals from Baton Rouge. The ugliest football coach in America going up against a guy that wins a lot of football games at Alabama. 2:30 kickoff, CBS nationally televised game. Some people call this the game of the century. It's Alabama, LSU, primetime television, and they kick off the same time Troy kicks off. And that is 2:30. So
if you're going to the game, you better start going into the game. What would you say, about an hour and a half earlier than you thought?
Oh, God, probably 2 hours if Trump's going to be there.
Yeah, Trump. Now, out of all the things he's done as being a president, this is the one I don't like. He's messing with Alabama, messing with college football in Alabama and LSU. I don't like it.
Didn't they say that?
He went to the Alabama-Georgia game and did the same thing.
And didn't people get in like halfway through the first quarter because of it? Some people?
Yeah. Big news out of LSU yesterday, though. Michael Devaney Jr., who's their starting linebacker, has left the team for personal reasons. He was leading the team in sacks, so that's very strange coming off an off week.
Well, another thing, too, Mike, they had a drug test, too. So it was not just the drug test that he failed. He failed at some other areas, too.
Yeah, for personal issues, he has left the program. He's a really good player, number 45, if you ever watched LSU games.
You know who Alabama's lost that not many people have talked about is the tight end, Morris Forrestall, number 87.
Yeah, throat injury, very strange.
He's going to miss at least the rest of the regular season of the SEC championship.
Man,
I watched him a little and some of the playbacks, and he was playing well. He was a pretty good receiver and blocked pretty good too. So Alabama's going to miss him.
I want to say he weighed 280 pounds, didn't he? He wasn't that big.
He's the guy that used to be the quarterback before Trevor Lawrence beat him out in high school, and they moved him to tight end. I've told y'all that story on this show.
No,
y'all aren't listening. Nobody's listening to me.
I didn't know that. Go ahead and tell it.
Forrestall was a quarterback in whatever town Trevor's from. And, Lawrenceville. And this hotshot freshman or 8th grader comes up, and the coach says, Morris, you've seen your last day at quarterback. And they moved him to tight end, and Trevor Lawrence becomes the number 1 prospect in the country, but Morris Forrestall as a tight end ends up at Alabama, having a good career.
Yeah, that's amazing.
You know, Lawrence has never lost a game in high school or college. Pretty unbelievable.
Yeah. You know,
God, that is.
let me end the discussion about all these guys that are not playing at Troy, Mike, and tell me what restaurant would say this. And that's no bull.
Angelo State.
Well, that is no bull that we just talked about. All these players that are missing at Troy.
Did y'all go to Angelo's this weekend?
No, but I did have some good steaks this weekend.
Is Angelo's still good, or is it just
living off its reputation? I had a steak last.
I think Angelo's was overhyped. I thought when I was a kid it was really good, but I tried it years later. I didn't think that steak was very good.
No, well, you know, the kind of thing that everybody, they would cook them in front of you, and that's
They
what
live off
everybody liked.
That's, can I tell my New York story?
Yeah.
Dad had a great trip on a bowl trip to New York City as a sophomore when they played in the Liberty Bowl in Philadelphia. After the game, Coach Bryant took him to New York City, which was a big thrill. He got to see a young Johnny Carson and give a stand-up routine. And one of the places they ate was Mama Leone's Italian restaurant, which then must have been the top best place in New York City. Skip forward to 1986, and Alabama's playing the kickoff classic against Ohio State. Mike Shula's the quarterback.
Yeah.
First game of the year. Dad and Mom, out of their generosity, send their 3 sons to New York City to the game.
Oh, boy.
Because Dad has these great memories of New York, and he wants to give them to his son. All he says is, y'all be sure to go to Mama Leone's and eat.
The 3 boys went together.
Man, we put on our suits, said this is going to be the greatest thing. We got there. Biggest disappointment in the world. I mean, the waiters are arguing with each other. The food tastes like Chef Boyardee. But still, people are still going there, but it's living off of its reputation from 40 years earlier.
To me, when you go to New York, you eat Italian.
That was Italian.
Yeah.
Mama Leone.
Dad's favorite place in New York is Demon's.
Yeah. What now?
Demon's Italian place.
Oh, it's several good ones. One of them is located down there. Oh, shoot.
Off Times Square is Demon's, isn't it?
Yeah. I can't remember exactly, but it is really good. The salad, they bring you out a salad as big as this table. It's unreal. But it was really, and I like the deli too, Mike.
They got some good delis.
Big deli right across the street from the Carnegie Deli. Yeah, they were famous for their deli sandwiches.
I was in Tulsa and we went to a steakhouse and they call it table steaks. So we ordered a 44-ounce porterhouse.
44-ounce porterhouse. How big was the bone? It weighed 10 ounces, didn't it?
Yeah, it was pretty big bone.
But you know what? It's no question. I don't think anybody can doubt this. The best steak in the world is one that's cooked bone in.
Yeah, bone-in ribeye.
Yeah, bone-in ribeye. And, of course, last night I ate at B. Graves, and I had the 8-ounce filet, which was outstanding. But a lot of people had the ribeye. It looked awfully good, too. But drank a lot of red wine and had a good time, Mike.
Hey, you said Tulsa. Michael just got back from Tulsa, said it's a pretty cool little town. How big would you say Tulsa is?
It's big in Birmingham, wouldn't you think? About the same.
Yeah, I mean, their downtown there is huge. I mean, it's over 400,000 people. Now, I'll tell you what I did do yesterday, on Sunday I did, which I had no clue that Tulsa University is like a really unbelievable academic school.
Yeah.
And it's one of the smallest schools in the country as far as enrollment for Division I athletics. And I went and toured their campus, and their campus was absolutely gorgeous. And their football stadium was this old, beautiful stadium. And the gates were open, which I learned from Mike Amos years ago. And I went out in the middle of the 50-yard line and walked up and down the football stadium. And, beautiful.
The Tulsa Hurricanes.
Beautiful place, beautiful arena, too. They've been getting basketball for years when Nolan Richardson used to be their head coach. And then Danny Manning was their head coach. So, really pretty school.
And they played well this year. They real good on defense.
Should have beat SMU. They were leading by 24 points in the fourth quarter and lost.
Well, let's.
I was watching Richard McBride late in that game. They replayed it last night. Man, Richard McBride was all over the field. He made at least 5 tackles in the fourth quarter.
I could have watched him, and I didn't do it, and I'm sorry. But let's go over some games this past weekend. It's going to be fun. Of course, those games early on Thursday, Coach Brown's team fought Baylor all the way to the end. Baylor wins 17-14. What are they going to do? The selection committee makes their tonight. But what are they going to do with an undefeated Baylor team? Somebody's got to beat Baylor. Who's going to do it? Tell me who Baylor's got left on the schedule.
Oklahoma's got them.
Oh, they'll beat the brains out. Okay, Georgia Southern upset Appalachian. That's what I like, Mike. A one-dimensional Georgia Southern team beats Appalachian State. They keep the ball away from them. They beat them 24-21. Appalachian State is a beatable football team. So is Georgia Southern, being one-dimensional. Again, though, we're going to piece in a defense. Navy killed UConn. We're not going to mention that much. Clemson beat Wofford 59-14. Georgia wins, and their hopes are still alive, 24-12. You can go ahead and pencil Clemson in. They don't play anybody. It won't be any problem.
Wake Forest. They play Wake Forest.
Yeah, they do. Do they play Wake Forest?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Wake Forest is good.
I know. They are pretty good. All right, Utah proved how good they are to go to Washington and win that game. And
Washington now has lost 4 games. So when's the last time Chris Peterson had lost 4 games?
And Utah will be a top 10 team. So will Georgia.
Washington was in all of those games too. They had. I watched that game. Washington was up by a touchdown, had the ball, going in trying to really finish off Utah, and they throw a pick six. Talk about 14-point change there.
Well, another team that's on fire right now is Oregon. They're top 7 or 8 team, so pencil them in with a chance.
Mm-hmm.
That Auburn loss at the early part of the year was not good.
Now they're wishing they wouldn't have played that game.
Auburn beats Ole Miss, and if Auburn, Auburn could be a top 6 or 7 if they could run the table.
If there's massive chaos, Auburn's not really completely eliminated from the playoffs because they could beat Alabama and Auburn, which would be huge wins.
Yeah, but they don't have
need a lot
of
of
the conference championship, though, do
they? Never get in because LSU beat them head-to-head. So basically, LSU would have to lose 3 times.
That's right. But they got to pull for everybody that's ahead of them to lose.
Michigan has proven to be a good team down the stretch, and they'll be in the top 10 at least this weekend.
I'm counting on Michigan to beat Ohio State.
Memphis just walloped.
They didn't wallop them.
I'd say that. Yeah, they sure did. 54-48. Memphis won.
Well, they were blowing them out. They were up 54-30 in the fourth quarter, and SMU scored 2 touchdowns and made 2 2-point conversions, and the final was 54-48.
I know, that was close, no question. Cincinnati goes to East Carolina and almost gets beat. Boise State beats San Jose by 10. Also, Kansas State wins big over Kansas. That was the best deal on the board. How could anybody I think the line was something like 11 or something.
No, it was 6.5.
6.5.
Because somebody did have Kansas State.
Notre Dame barely beat Virginia Tech 21-20.
Wake Forest clobbered North Carolina State. Their program's going down a little bit. North Carolina State's is. Central Michigan, then this is one of Will's picks. He picked Central Michigan and he won it. He picked Buffalo and he won it. He picked Florida, Atlanta. I don't think he won that one. But your buddy up at Liberty, Mike, is killing folks. He beat UMass, who won very good, 63-12. Talking about Liberty. Boston College walloped Syracuse. Texas A&M walloped Texas San Antonio.
Blew out UAB. That wasn't even close.
That was really not even close. That surprised me that Tennessee UAB did not play.
Hey, it's a perfect.
Jeremy Pruitt's starting to turn them around. You can tell against Alabama. They got a pretty good team.
Yeah.
Well, it goes back to my point I made earlier. It's how you finish a year.
And believing that you can win has a lot to do with it, too.
It was almost a foregone conclusion that Pruitt would be out of here, maybe even before the season was over. Now it's looking like everybody at Tennessee is going to be upbeat and feeling good about their program if they keep winning.
Florida Atlantic did win. They beat Western Kentucky at Western Kentucky 35-24.
Yeah, it was.
Didn't we all have that one too?
Yeah, that's right. I think it did. I don't know what the.
They were all 1- and 2-point spreads.
Yeah, I was wondering about what the spread was on that game.
Every game he picked, he picked 3 games that were 1-point lines.
He did well.
3 games that were 2-point lines.
He did well. We'll have that for you tomorrow. Troy and Coastal wins that game 36-35. UCF wins 44-29 over Houston. Air Force, who had been killing everybody, just had a pretty hard time with Army, but they win the game. How about this, Charlotte? I would hate to know that any school named Charlotte would beat me. Charlotte beat Middle Tennessee by 14, Mike. What's wrong with Middle Tennessee?
I think you're going to finally see Stockstill lose his job. He's been there for about 14 years at Middle Tennessee.
Yeah.
That job's probably going to come open.
I wouldn't doubt it. And then, of course, ladies and gentlemen, the game heard around the world. Florida State loses to Miami 27-10. Coach loses his job, but he's got a buyout of $20 million. That, Mike, no way in the world they're going to have to pay him $20 million, are they?
I've been hearing on the radio ever since it happened all day yesterday. That's all they kept on talking about.
Arkansas State.
They basically just said the boosters wrote a few checks and it was done.
Oh, me. Isn't that amazing? Arkansas State loses down at Monroe 48-41. North Texas beat UTEP. I tell you, a team's playing pretty good right now. It's Oklahoma State. They beat TCU 34-27.
They're one of those box of chocolate teams.
I was at a sports bar, and Stillwater's only, I think, less than like 45 minutes from Tulsa, and everybody in there was wearing Oklahoma State gear and cheering them on.
Oh yeah, that's a big school.
They're like a box of chocolates. You never know what team's going to show up.
Of course, some other scores of interest. BYU walloped Utah State 42-14. I tell you, you don't know what BYU team will show up. He had one that I thought I had won, but South Carolina did beat
Vandy.
Vandy 24-17. UAB beats. Tennessee beats UAB 30-7. Virginia did what I wanted them to do, Mike. Y'all were taking North Carolina. I took Virginia.
I took them.
Okay. And they won 38-31. A team that is really good right now, that nobody's talking about at all, is Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
They walloped Northwestern 34-3.
Can I tell people that really like to bet something? I'm one of them. I won't even tell you how I did this week, but the people, the guys that are tearing it up on the picks against the spread are Jesse Palmer and Joey. What's his name?
Those two guys, yeah.
Joey Galloway.
Joey Galloway. Palmer in the last 4 weeks is 8-0 against the spread. Galloway is about the same.
When did they do it?
On Thursday night.
Yeah, they have what they call their locks or their and one of them this past week was Indiana.
Yeah.
And I said, and these guys aren't missing, and so I followed their advice.
Yeah. Well, and of course they won 38-20. No, that was Tulane. Tulane won their game 38-26. I don't give any respect to Arkansas, and Mississippi State just killed them. I thought they would, 54-24, so they win by 30. As we mentioned,
everybody at Tulsa, of course, Fayetteville is only an hour away as well, and we were out with some Arkansas folks, and they think this is worse than last year, that they had to hire a new coach as well.
And Mississippi State?
No, at Arkansas.
How much are they going to have to pay him off?
He's never won a game in the SEC.
Yeah.
They're still paying off the guy before him.
Are we going to call an upset alert this week? Appalachian State travels to South Carolina. South Carolina's a 5-point favorite.
I'm about to wait. You know what? South Carolina's going to drum them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have much confidence in Appalachian State.
State just didn't show up against Georgia Southern. I don't know what happened.
No, they didn't. Marshall beat Rice. Pittsburgh beat Georgia Tech by 10. Florida Atlantic, this was one of Will's picks, 35-24. I don't know what the line was over Western Kentucky.
Yeah, you got to wonder, will Lane Kiffin's name pop up in any of these coaching searches?
I know it. You're right.
I wonder why it doesn't.
And then, of course, Texas State, who is playing very well in the Sun Belt, walloped Louisiana, walloped Texas State 31-3. But that's a look at some of the scores that you might not have heard from.
I want to see if Bill Clark's name shows up with UAB going to this new nice stadium and with a coach that's proving that he is very good. As a Troy fan, it would not bother me at all to see Bill Clark go somewhere else. How about y'all?
No question about it.
Well, I mean, when Troy used to play him, it makes you wonder if Brent Jones, the athletic director, will get in touch with UAB and try to rekindle that series. We used to play them every year. I'd love to do it again.
And another thing too, though,
we're competing for the same recruits and so forth.
Going into that Tennessee game, he really had a good reputation. He might have lost a little bit because Tennessee walloped him pretty good.
Well, quarterback threw 4 interceptions.
Yeah.
That's never going to win any games.
We're going to take a short break. It's 8 o'clock. Do you know where your children are? Hopefully they're in school. We'll be back.
Last week at this time, it was 9 o'clock, right? Yeah, we felt...
Discounts, big selection, and really big deals. It's the big pre-owned sale. Only at Premier Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Pre-owned vehicles start at $29.95. Over 50 vehicles under $15,000. $29 down. And you can drive today or take advantage of payments starting at $99 a month. That's $29 down. And payments starting as low as $99. From Montgomery to Dothan, the best pre-owned deal are at Premier Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram or online at PremierChrysler.com. Nobody beats a Premier deal. Nobody.
Troy Cable Security Wi-Fi doorbell camera allows you to answer the door from your smartphone when you are at home, at work, or on the go. When a visitor presses the button, Troy Cable Security sends a live video feed to your smartphone so you can see, hear, and speak to the person at your door. With the doorbell camera, you can have your porch light turn on automatically when it detects motion at night to create the appearance that someone is at home. You can view video clips so you can always know who stopped by when you are out. Troy Cable Security. You love them, protect them.
Trojan Auto Parts of Troy, home of Napa Know-How. Stop by and see owners Mike and Melissa Kilcrease and their Napa Know-How team with over 100 years of combined experience. We're the only locally owned parts store in Pike County, and we're fully stocked and ready to serve you. We pride ourselves on being your go-to parts store, not only for the simple items, but we specialize in those hard-to-find items as well. Trojan Auto Parts, the right part at the right price at the right time. Napa, a name you've trusted here in Troy since 1945.
Know-how, Napa Know-how.
Ford Truck Month is going on now at Bill Jackson Ford, and folks, we have the deal for you. Take up to $6,000 off MSRP and get 0% APR for 72 months for huge savings on a new 2019 Ford F-150. Select new 2019 Ford Mustang starting at an incredibly low $23,900. Or drive home a select new 2019 Ford Escape starting at just $18,900. Bill Jackson is the name you've trusted for over 30 years. Check us out on Highway 231 in Troy or online at BillJacksonFord.com.
I've been working for this my whole life. The chance to relax on the open water. With my financial institution, Max, my Achieve checking account earns dividends. So I'm free to do what I love.
Oh, wow.
All right.
War Eagle, yes, Auburn.
Auburn's got an off week.
Auburn has the week off, but they're getting ready. They're getting ready, believe you me. They're going to beat Georgia. They're going to beat Alabama, and they're going to have a great bowl game to go to. Auburn going to sit it out this week and watch the LSU Alabama game.
I really don't get all the angst and criticism I've heard from Auburn fans about a team that's lost just two games on the road to outstanding teams in close competitive games. I mean, it's not it's about better than anybody could have expected with a freshman quarterback.
That's right. Ladies and gentlemen, our cameras crews, and let me tell you, Scott, our guy here at Troy Cable, does a wonderful job of going into these different venues. He was in Enterprise 2 weeks ago and doing games live on Troy Cablevision. Well, this past week, he goes to Bullock County. Bullock County never had a televised game in their life. Well, they might have had some taped games that we did here on Troy Cable, Alan Jones and I. But this was a live game that was brought to you from Union Springs, Alabama, Bullock County High School, and they're playing their big rival, Barber County. If this was a basketball game, this would be one of the best basketball games in the country. But I do apologize. It was a football game, and look out for Bullock County High School. We're going to show it to you right now. This is a tape 2 minutes long. And this is Bullock in the black.
That's Mike. I'm gonna do I've never been a color commentator. That was a toss sweep left for a touchdown. That's a handoff left for a touchdown.
But was that a hold or a block right there? Boy, that would have closed.
I'm glad they didn't call it.
Their first three scores were their first 3
plays.
First 3 plays were first 3.
Barber County, who's lost like 70 straight.
That's right.
Is that the team that the guy rushed for 500 yards against, Barber County?
Yeah. What did he do last week? Oh, he had an off week.
Now look at these. Look how big that quarterback is. He throws a Hail Mary and he breaks clean for a touchdown.
Oh.
Look at that. Look how far he goes. Man, he's got to go 90 yards here. That's a long way.
Dad, why don't you come out of retirement and do all the Bullitt County games next year?
I might do it.
Not the real quarterback.
That was.
Quarterback was about 5'5".
Okay, and here he goes again. This is the 4th time they've touched it. He's going to score again too now.
Well, this is sad. I can tell that Barber County might be the worst high school football team in America.
Yeah, and now they throw. They got a guy behind everybody. I think they scored 60-something points in this game. Look at they pulled everybody then. Bingo! Fumble and recovered by Barber County.
I'd like to mention that Bullitt County finished the year 6-4, 4-3 in the region. They will play at Gordo this week in the high school playoffs.
Bullitt County, ain't that wonderful? That is a great thing.
I want everybody to count the fans.
They got some players now.
Count the fans in the Barber County seats over there on the other side when you get another angle.
What county are they, Mike? I mean, what class are they?
If they're playing at Gordo, they'd be 3A.
This is the final. That's some footage, and they would be playing 3A at Bullitt County 6-4 at Gordo 10-0.
You know that actually.
But they had some athletes. I guarantee you.
Bullitt County is probably pretty good, but that actually makes me sad. I mean, I've told y'all the story. I went to a Goshen Barber County game one time in Goshen, and I counted the fans that came over from Barber County. It was 10, I think, in the bleachers. Well, I was just looking at the visitors' bleachers at that stadium. I don't think there was 10. There might have been. I think they had a little band, but I think there were about 8 people. Isn't that kind of depressing?
That's right. I was going to look at some of these.
Barber County lost that game 64-6.
64-6, and. But I'll tell you, and I'm not exaggerating here, Bullitt County has gotten better and better, and so it was great that we were able to do some of their games. Let's look at some of these high school games, Mike, and one of them was the Goshen-Brantley game, and Goshen played the whole ball game without, I want to say, 5 of their top players, and they didn't ever identify those players.
We had a question about that going into the game, and so they didn't play.
Brantley won that game, didn't they?
Yeah, they won it quite convincingly, and but Goshen pulled I think at least 5 players, starting players, and that had a lot to do with the game. And that final score was 47-14, Brantley over Goshen.
I gave y'all all that information, and I was so smart. I took Goshen.
You gave me that information, and I changed my pick after you gave it to me.
I don't know what in the world I was thinking.
Looking at some other, and of course now looking at 1A, the playoffs in 1A, and
I got the playoff pairings. Do you need
them? Yeah, I'm looking at them. Of course, Sweetwater, they're no longer 8-0. No, they're 8-1 now because Pike County just drilled them, Mike. Pike County drilled Sweetwater.
I'm not surprised.
I mean, Pike County looks like they're going to win it all.
I would not doubt it. I would not doubt it. They do it with power, man. They have a powerful team. Pike County beat Sweetwater 25-7 at Bulldog Stadium Friday night. Some other games of interest in 1A. Well, I don't know if this is of interest or not. Fruitvale beats Red Level 40-8. Looking at 2A, New Brockton beat Sampson 49-21.
Yeah, that win put Zion Chapel in the playoffs.
So Zion Chapel, and then congratulations to Zion Chapel, Mike. He does a great job.
Yeah, Randy Bryan, I was working with that program when they first started, and he was talking about how long it was going to take to build a program, and teach those kids to believe and basically make them believe they can win. And we went 5-5, and I guess with a forfeit win they got from Holland home, they finished 6-4, so that's a winning record at Zion Chapel. So he needs to start getting his resume out there. He can win Zion Chapel. Somebody's probably going to hire him somewhere else.
I tell you though, that's a super scoop. A lot of folks would love to have that job, no question.
It's like what
I I'd try to go somewhere else where I could win consistently if you want to win a lot.
It's like Tony Franklin won 7 games at Vanderbilt, and then he became hot coaching commodity.
Then Zion Chapel.
9 games.
Yeah. Zion Chapel beat Pleasant Home 20-0, and like Mike said, Zion Chapel in Class 2A is getting ready for a big game. And let's see here now. I'm looking, Mike, and I can't find them. Zion Chapel.
They're playing Reeltown.
Oh yeah, playing Reeltown. Oh gosh, but Zion Chapel 6-4, playing Reeltown 9-1, and Reeltown is really good. Other games in Class 2A, and we are just have a tremendous Division 2A games available here. New Brockton beat Sampson 49-21, and in 2A, does that mean New Brockton is in the playoffs?
New Brockton's 5-5. We'll play Lafayette.
All right, we'll play Lafayette, and Lafayette is 5-4, so that should be a good one. Played at Lafayette.
The hottest team in 2A right now is Arrington.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get to him in a minute. Luverne beat Opp 20-0, and of course Luverne only once beaten is getting ready to play Fayette.
They got a 0 by it now, so they're 10-0 according to.
That's right. That's right.
The books.
You're exactly right. Hey, I want you to know, Highland Home, you did a lot of folks a lot of favors. So that means Luverne leaves the regular schedule with a 10-0 record.
Mm-hmm. Officially.
Okay.
One of the only teams that legitimately lost to Highland Home was Goshen.
All right, now, how does this work? Highland Home 54-6 over Houston County High School. And
their season's over.
And their season's over because of an ineligible player.
Yeah, they had to forfeit all those wins in the area.
What a shame, because they really had a fine team.
I mean, they only lost one game. I mean,
I know it.
They probably could have won the state championship.
Really a good football team. The best team probably.
They beat Luverne 52-28.
Mike, this was probably the best team Highland Home's ever had. And they have a.
They went to the third round of the playoffs last year.
G.W. Long beats Houston Academy 28-14, and our great coach Mike it's hard to win at Houston Academy.
Let me ask you a question. Did you ever referee any games when Jim Farmer played at Houston Academy?
Yeah, he got in trouble, didn't he? Did you hear about that, Mike? With Jim Farmer?
I wasn't going to mention it on the show. I mean, I really, he's one of my favorite players at Alabama. It's heartbreaking to see that he's involved in a prostitution sting up in Nashville area around Franklin, but it's like underage kids, I mean, it's...
Now, that was something that we actually read in the newspaper, so,
No, I mean, he was arrested. It's all over AL.com. Yeah. It's all over all the newspapers. It was in the Dauphin Eagle newspaper as well. I mean, he's going to go to prison. There's no doubt.
Yeah, I hate that. G.W. Long 8-2 at Cottage Hill 8-2, so that's a pretty tough opener for G.W. Long. G.W. Long is a good program, and we'll be watching that one closely. Also in Class 2A, Fife, the defending state champion, and of course they beat Pike County a couple of years ago, and of course they're very good. Again, Fife is the top team in the state right now, along with Pike County. Fife is...
Fife's in 2A.
I'm looking at it in 2A. They're 10-0, playing Sheffield 6-4. That'll be a pretty good game. Sheffield 6-4, probably pretty good. They probably played a lot of those big schools.
Pike County's 3A. 3A.
Yeah, that's right. So this is 2A.
Pike County got an opening game against T.R. Miller, and T.R. Miller's head coach was the great coach at Maplesville.
Let me tell you this: that is not a good draw for Pike County. We'll be talking about that in a moment. But Abbeville, listen to this now, beat Headland 14-8 in overtime. Abbeville's in the playoffs. We'll be watching that real closely. And I've got Abbeville, Mike, right here playing J.U. Blackshear. J.U. Blackshear is 8-2 at Abbeville 8-2. So that's going to be a pretty good opener. But a lot of our teams, local teams, are playing in 2A. 3A, T.R. Miller beats W.S. Neal in the Battle of Murder Creek, 7-6. I know that just tore those folks up from Neal. They were having a good year, and T.R. Miller was not having a good year. but now Miller is in the playoffs, and they're 6-4
Don't you think
at Pike County. That'd be a good game to go see right there.
That's got to be one of the most fierce high school rivalries in the state, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, the Battle of Murder Creek right there in downtown. It's located right there in downtown Bruton. But again, this is quite a football game here. With Pike County, that's not a good draw to have to play a team like.
They've had some colossal matchups through the years.
Yeah, like T.R. Miller. This is probably the worst T.R. Miller team that we've seen in a while. Let me look and see. Miller is 6-4 at Pike County, 10-0. So Pike County should do it, but it won't be easy.
Yeah.
Thomasville, another team that's always respected in 3A. They're playing. They beat Clark County 21-14, and that was one of the games we wanted to look at. Slocum, the Red Tops, beat Geneva County 49-42. I think both of those teams made it to the playoffs. Both of them are pretty good. Plays at Flomaton. Flomaton, the defending state champion in 3A. I'm looking at St. James made it again, Mike. Montgomery Academy plays at Winfield. That's a long ways to go. Bullock County playing at undefeated Gordo, 10-0. Gordo's always good. Well, what color uniforms does Gordo have, Mike?
They're just like the Green Bay Packers.
Just like the Green Bay Packers.
That means they're just like Jeff Davis. Then
he looks at things the same way I do.
Isn't Jeff Davis just like the Green Bay Packers?
Yeah. Jeff Davis is. And Jeff Davis.
Tom Henderson for years looked like the Syracuse Orangemen.
I'm gonna tell you this: Jeff Davis had a pretty good football team. They beat Dothan this past weekend, Mike. Just beat them bad.
You know, I was surprised that Enterprise turned around. They made the playoffs.
They sure did, and they're playing well at the right time, no question about it. We were looking at some other scores. Geneva's playing at Mobile Christian. Geneva's 8-2 at Mobile Christian, 5-4. This is one of the better Geneva high school teams in a long time.
What's Mobile Christian's record?
Mobile Christian is 5-4, but they're playing against real good competition.
It was about 8 years ago. They were AISA school, weren't they? Mobile.
Yeah, they were.
Ronnie Cottrell's the head coach of Mobile Christian.
You watch them; they'll be tough in the playoffs. I'd hate to know I had to play them, but I just was.
Isn't Ronnie Cottrell a Troy graduate?
Yeah, well, he is a. I don't know if he's a Troy graduate. He coached here though.
He was a graduate assistant.
He coached at Troy. I would imagine.
Yeah, that's right. He
was a grad assistant. That's when he got started.
He got his master's here at Troy. Yeah.
I think he got started under Coach Bradshaw.
Yeah, that's right. I remember when he came in here. Looking at 4A.
He's a really, really nice guy. I dealt with him a lot. Super nice guy.
No question about it. Andalusia 7. Well, let's just say this. And we jump around on our show a lot, but I think people like to hear these things, to learn a little bit. If he doesn't get in trouble on this Memphis deal at Alabama with the renowned,
the infamous Logan Young.
If he doesn't get involved in that, he would have probably got to be a head coach by now.
Probably so.
At a major college. Did you know what? At a major college, he would have had a shot.
Well, I mean, he was the head guy at Florida State, recruiting coordinator. That recruited all those great players for all those years for Bowden.
And you know what? He and I were friends, and like a nut, I brought it up to him one day and mentioned that. I know that's something he didn't want to hear, but I'm sure it's been told to him. If he had not been involved in that, and Dubose was involved in it too, wasn't he?
You know, he brought a civil action against the NCAA at one time. He had the lawyer from Montgomery that represented him.
That's right, yeah.
I know that lawyer.
You know, Cottrell hosts a radio show down in Mobile, too. He's still been real involved with sports on the radio.
I'm glad. He's a great guy, like you said, and no telling, though, what his career would have turned out to be. And, I mean, he was just doing what he was told to do. You know what?
I'll tell you my Ronnie Cottrell story is there was a basketball player at Charles Henderson, Corey King, or that played with Malcolm Battles and Drew Felix.
Corey King and his brother was Oliver King that I grew up with.
Corey King was about 6'4", 240, built like a Greek god, power forward, very good basketball player. Never played a down of football. But he looked like, in high school, looked like the prototypical NFL tight end or defensive end. And I had a newspaper then, and I talked to Coach Fountain. He told me he tried to get Corey to come out for football, and he didn't. And some reason I came in contact with Cottrell, and we were talking about recruiting. He says, you know, Charles Henderson's got a player that I think could be one of the best football prospects in the state, but here's the catcher. He's never played a down of football. And Coach Fountain told me that I didn't think he'd do anything with it. Why would you recruit somebody that's a basketball player? Well, he followed up on it and talked to Coach Fountain, and you know, he said, I agree. That guy looks like he would be a can't miss in football. So
I think he was even bigger than that. I think he might have been 6'6".
Yeah. And he could move. He was a fantastic athlete. You know, he was he would never be a Division I big time basketball player, but he could have been a stud in football if he played it.
Yeah, running the point. You had Corey King and Malcolm Battle. You know, your forward and your center. That was the team that went to the Final Four.
Jonathan Deveridge was on the. He could have been another great football player as a safety or wide receiver.
Yeah. This show is brought to you by Premier Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, and Ram Trucks on the bypass right here in Troy, and of course Jason and all the great crew there, Jason Gregory, and boy, what they do for our community. The program they did for Troy Regional Medical Center is just phenomenal. People that went to that affair said it was one of the best events they have ever been to. Skeet shooting, and then the TAMs. Boy, they had a great time and did a super job. Looking at 4A, I want to mention some schools in 4A. Andalusia looks like they've got another good team in 4A, and they'll be playing at Trinity, 7-3. That'd be a good game, Andalusia and Trinity there. Alabama Christian, 6-4, plays at Hillcrest, and Hillcrest is always good. They'll be playing in the playoffs. Some other games in Class 4A, Escambia County beat Francis Marion. Of course, that's and then of course Brooks beat Madison County. These are teams that we're not real concerned with. Monroe County beat Excel 32-24. Looking at some other scores of interest, there's not many of them of interest, but let's look at 4A playoffs. Alabama Christian at Hillcrest.
You look at 5A.
I know we're going to do that next, but not many 4A teams in our area other than Andalusia.
Dale County made the playoffs.
Dale County did, and congratulations to them.
They're going to get beat immediately. They play 9-0 UMS Roy.
Yeah, I'd hate to have to play UMS Roy. And of course, congratulations to them. In Class 5A, Charles Henderson of Troy lost to what I thought was a pretty good team from Bay Minette, Baldwin County High School, 20-14. Charles Henderson now travels to Faith High School in Mobile, who is 10-0 on the season, and Charles Henderson will be playing them this Friday night.
We're all Charles Henderson grads here. I mean, you know, Bill and you, Dad, and I, you know, we all went to Charles Henderson. So how do you look at Charles Henderson's program? They went 3-7 last year, but I guess they made the playoffs. And then, you know, they're 4-5 this year. I mean, everybody thinks they're going to get beat by Faith Academy. They go to the playoffs again. They go 4-6. I mean, how do you see the program? Is that program moving in a positive direction, or is it?
Well, if you look at who they played, and they had a tough schedule. You know, they lose to a great team out of one of the top teams in Class 7A. Or no, are they 6? Oxford, and Oxford ended the season 9-1. They played them, and they played also Enterprise. That's a 7A school, and lost. That's 2 losses right there. Then they lost Baldwin County, which is a big 6A school. Can you think now? Greenville in 5A. Now you wonder what's happening here. Well, Greenville ends up getting beat badly. Did you know that? You know, Greenville lost this week, but they'll be in the playoffs. Greenville will play at Central-Nell.
Greenville 6-4.
And they're 6-4, so they're in it.
What's your opinion on it, Bill?
They lost to Greenville.
Well, it just seems like they're not real bad, but they're not real good either. They somewhat competitive. The game games I've been to, the crowds are disappointing. I mean, nothing like they used to be when we were coming up.
You're talking about 7 and 13 the last 2 seasons. Is that good? Or I mean, is that average?
Well, just the numbers speak for themselves.
But they are playing tough people now, like Rehoboth. They beat Rehoboth 6-0. Rehoboth's 8-2. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
This is the best Rehoboth.
Well, they beat Pike
ever.
County High School, and we bragged about
beat Pike County.
We bragged about how good Pike County.
That count. That's a jamboree. I don't know why y'all think that counts.
But it shows what they're capable of.
Yeah, that's right. It sure does. And both teams wanted to win.
They were playing. They had a scoreboard.
And both teams wanted to win. You're right. They had a scoreboard.
When it's all said and done, though, I mean, McCoy took over. His best season is when he took over for Mike Dean. He had a state championship team that went 14-1. And that season, he had Richard McBride, and he had probably the greatest quarterback in Charles Henderson.
Yeah, no question.
And Austin Ingram.
Yeah.
So that team.
And that great receiver, throw that great receiver in there, too.
That team he took over, I think he won 8 games. They got beat in the second round of the playoffs. And that's, they've never been in the second round of the playoffs since then. Actually, that's the only time he's won a playoff game. So, I mean, I'm just saying, I mean, that season, anybody could have won, 8, 9, 10 games with the talent they have. I'm just saying, it's been 5 years, 6 years since then to build a program.
Yeah. Mike, let's get off this. We're fixing to go off there. We got to get this in. Mike, this Thursday night at the Trojan Arena is going to be one of the best basketball games ever played in this community of Troy, Alabama. Is Troy University going up against UAB, a top 25 nationally type team, and they play here in Troy, 7 o'clock tip. What do you think?
Hot dog. Let's go. I'll go.
It's going to be a great one.
I mean, UAB, of course, had won 10 in a row in the series until last year. Cunningham and the great Jarvis Bernardo hit a shot, I think with 5 seconds left, and Troy finally broke their losing streak to UAB. And, of course, Coach Cross is starting his career at Troy, and UAB, a lot of guys coming back and always have had a great basketball program. It should be a great game. I'm looking forward to hopefully watching all.
Mike said Troy looked pretty good in their scrimmage against Auburn.
They really did. Against Auburn looked very good, no question about it. But that was exhibition, and this is going to be for all the marbles, and it'll be the first game of Coach's tenure.
Basically, it was like a jamboree.
Yeah, just like first game of that tenure, and it should be.
Let's get a big crowd in the arena.
We should fill it up because this is great quality basketball from the Trojan Arena.
I mean, the biggest crowd ever to see a Troy basketball game in that arena was the first game ever against Mississippi State. That was a sellout.
Yeah, did we win that game or did we lose it?
Yeah, Troy won it at the buzzer.
Yeah, won it at the buzzer, beat Mississippi State. That was one of the great games of all. But we got a new coach, Mike, a new system. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a big-time hire. This guy was a proven winner at Texas Arlington, and he's really been involved with the students. And, any coach that dresses up as a football player to get the students riled up at a football game is pretty amazing.
Appreciate our sponsors. Thank you so much for watching our show. See you again today at 1:30. We appreciate you watching our show. And, again, thanks to our sponsors. We'll see you bright and early in the morning for Today in L.A.
Trojan Auto Parts of Troy, home of Napa Know-How. Stop by and see owners Mike and Melissa Kilcrease and their Napa Know-How team with over 100 years of combined experience. We're the only locally owned parts store in Pike County, and we're fully stocked and ready to serve you. We pride ourselves on being your go-to parts store, not only for the simple items, but we specialize in those hard-to-find items as well. Trojan Auto Parts, the right part at the right price at the right time. Napa, a name you've trusted here in Troy since 1945.
Are you a driver trainee looking for a job? Then come to Wiley Sanders Truck Line, where we reimburse you for your driver training pay. Thank you so much for bringing Reed State to Wiley Sanders Truck Line.
Absolutely. And now that we brought them to you, what do you have to offer them?
I have a lot to offer them. I can offer them 401k. I can give them 4% of their gross pay. I can give them Blue Cross Blue Shield. I can get them home twice a week and every weekend. That's right, twice a week, every weekend. Wireless Sandals Truck Line.